Good morning, and thanks so much for tuning in to the trade setup. I'm Neeraj Shah. Excuse us for being a couple of minutes late, but let's get started with all the news flow that will impact markets today. First, what the global markets did, and much unlike, let's pull up the US markets first for you, and you will see that much unlike what happened. How do I say on Friday maybe that there was a bit of a reversal. This time around, it stayed stable. The Nasdaq did a lot lower than what the Dow and the S&P did, but it's a trending day ending almost at the day's highs, which is actually a good sign from a global markets perspective. The other cues will come up on your screen next. I don't think there are too many major changes out there, except for the fact that the volatility came off at 7.78. But 10-year yield still steady for between less than 4.10, dollar index at 102 or thereabouts. The gift Nifty should be indicating a start, which is maybe marginally positive or marginally negative. Okay, marginally negative, but don't make too much of this per se. The last 2 days we've done reasonably okay, and therefore it's safe to assume that it's not like that the market is reeling under pressure. So firstly, what happened yesterday, right? Nifty increased by about 81 points to close at 19,598, which is up about 0.42%. India VIX went up by about 5% to close at 11. But the reason why the Nifty didn't have a rara move was because Bank Nifty, led by SBI and Bank of Baroda, kind of stayed lower. So very, very flattish performance by the Bank Nifty. Nifty Pharma, we spoke about how Pharma held the best cards, and the Nifty Pharma yet again was the top gainer at 1.56% higher, followed by the Nifty IT at 1.13% higher. And in other news, just look at the appetite. SBFC Finance IPO was subscribed 70 times on the final day, led by QIP and NIIP. So just shows that for a large, for a well sought after IPO, the subscription levels are really going through the roof. We've seen that happen with a few others in the past. This one is no different. So what's the trade setup therefore for the day looking like? Like I said, I think the indices are skittish, but I don't think the risk reward is in favor of sharp shorts. If anything, large short positions could well be avoided. Pharma stocks are holding out well, with risk reward being thought of conducive from a long-term perspective. Now, if you hear Dheeraj Agarwal of Ambit Capital yesterday on Talking Point, he speaks about how this seems to be just the start of maybe a 4 or 5 year uptrend for the US generic exposed companies, and therefore the Sun Pharmas, Lupins, Reddy's. I'm not getting into those names as to he said it, but I'm giving you the example. It's a slightly different kettle of stocks versus the other healthcare names like hospitals, etc. They may too do well. I think the street is turning conducive on the US generic exporters. We heard Kenneth Andrade say that. We heard yesterday Ambit Capital say that. A couple of others have said that too. And the commentary from these companies is not too bad. Lupin, for example, had a bit of a turnaround quarter as per DAM Capital. So that's the set of pharma stocks that people seem to be liking. And a very small bucket, but specialized food stocks are dishing out some very strong quarterly performances with fairly good commentary as well. We saw the same thing happen to Mrs. Bector's yesterday. Very strong delivery in terms of numbers. There are a couple of companies which have delivered fairly strong numbers today as well on this in this space, and I'll come to them. But for Mrs. Bector's, by the way, I must tell you what brokerages are saying. Like Investec, for example, has of course a buy rating, a target price of 1026, which is about a 9% upside, but they say that it continues to outperform expectations. It was an 18% beat versus some consensus PAT estimates and management initiatives to drive revenue growth and deliver on profitability. They've upgraded earnings. They believe there is room for growth because the size continues to be significant from the current levels, and it's a discount to multiple companies as well even now. So watch out for some of these niche specialized food companies. Excuse me for that. They're starting to do really well for themselves. Now, so that's the trade setup for the day. Flows continue to be negative. 8-day on a trot that we had a bit of a downtick, so that's to be kept in mind. Earnings were okay. The earnings list is okay rather. There is Adani Ports and Coal India from amongst the large names. So those are the two watch out for, in addition to Siemens from the larger names and Hindalco, but a bunch of other mid-sized names. So Brigade and Prestige from the real estate pack. Mishra Dhatu Nigam or Midhani, important one to watch out for. There's also Happiest Minds and Data Patterns from the tech side, as well as Idea Forge from the drone side. So a clutch of names to watch out for in the session today. Three large names and a clutch of mid-sized names. So lots to monitor. Stocks to watch in the session today. I think a clutch of them to be monitored. So first, HDFC Bank, optic fiber stocks and FMCG stocks are all in focus. Now, I'll go one by one. So why HDFC Bank? Well, apparently, I don't have it, but apparently FTSE India has changed to be implemented in three tranches. In a notification has decided to, apparently FTSE India notification has decided to implement the revised float change post-merger in HDFC Bank in three tranches. This would essentially mean that there could be flows maybe about $500 million. So that is something that is being spoken about, and maybe it helps HDFC Bank today. By the way, purists tell me that at some point of time, there'll be buying that will resume from some of the other large insurance companies as well. Maybe MSCI revision happens at some point of time in the next 2 to 3 months. So therefore, it remains a stock to watch out for. Why optic fiber stocks? We spoke about them yesterday, so it's not new news. But you saw the way the stocks ended. They ended pretty much at the day's highs, trending moves. Watch out for them. Aksh Optic Fiber is a small stock, was up 20% inches from the start. So maybe all is not done with those stocks. So be mindful of them. And then, but the caveat is, viewers, that these plans are there, but they may not necessarily start earning from day one. So please do your own due research properly before you go out and buy any of these names. And thirdly, FMCG stocks. The reason why I say this is because the commentary is very different from different companies. Britannia had an issue when it came to even rural. Tata Consumer, strong commentary on rural. Emami, very strong commentary on rural, and optimism about rural. And even Godrej Consumer seems to be okay on the rural front. So it's mixed in the FMCG pocket. Please be careful before betting on any of these names, either on the upside or on the downside. So bear that in mind. Then Adani Green Energy, Qatar sovereign wealth arm, INQ Holding, bought about 2.7% stake in a bulk deal. Infinite Trade and Investment, a promoter entity, sold 4.48 crore shares, which is about which is the 2.8% at 920 rupees a piece. So therefore, Adani Green Energy, which was down 12% when the deal happened, ended about 3% higher. But now this is official. That's Qatar sovereign wealth arm, which is INQ Holding. So this might well help the stock today as well. Standard disclaimer. Adani Green Energy is owned by the Adani Group, and the Adani Group, through Adani Media Networks, holds 49% stake in Quintillion Business Media, which is the owner of BQ Prime. So bear that in mind. Then BEML gets about 3,177 crore order for supplying of rolling stock to Bangalore Metro as per the exchange filing. Maybe it helps BEML. RailTel has received a work order from Pimpri Chinchwad Smart City. The annual revenue for the contract is 70 crores. The total revenue for 10 years, about 700 crores. Small addition to RailTel's burgeoning order book may help the sentiment. MMTC, well, may hurt the sentiment. SEBI's cancelled the registration of the company as a stockbroker for its involvement in the illegal paired contract in the case pertaining to the defunct NSEL. Now, I confess that I do not know if MMTC has any major revenues from this particular stream currently. So you will have to do your own due diligence. On the face of it, the announcement doesn't seem positive, but it may not have a material earnings impact. That's to be borne in mind. I'm sorry I've not been able to do research on this one, but I still thought it was important to highlight the announcement as it came in. So just thought we'd bring it. PB Fintech, then I moved to the numbers. PB Fintech, I thought the numbers were good. Revenue is up 32%. Net loss narrowed to 11.9 crores versus 204 crores of a net loss. So maybe, just maybe, this could do okay. But I must say, delivery too, I think, delivered a number which is on similar lines. Brokerages today are bullish, by the way, but the stock didn't do too much. So bear that in mind. By the way, speaking of tech stocks, just before I move on with other numbers, apparently Zomato has started charging some delivery charges minor in some of the other cities as well, and that might help the EBITDA story for Zomato. Bear that in mind. It will be the social media chatter during the whole day today, so be mindful of that. Then continuing with results, Godrej Consumer Products. Now, this is interesting, viewers. First, the numbers. Revenue up 10% at 3448 versus estimate of 3472, so in line. EBITDA up 23%, 642. Normally 23% EBITDA is good, but the estimates were 685 crores. Margins at 18.6 versus 16.7. Normally it will be good. And in a quarter like this, certainly will. A lot of companies have actually showed iffy margins. But Godrej Consumer is up margins, but the estimates were 19.7 and therefore lower than estimates. Net profit down 8% at 318 versus 345. No, I mean, no surprises there. It is a miss, and it is a big miss relative to the Bloomberg estimates of 460 crores. The company, though, is optimistic about the EBITDA margin commitment for FY24. Now, the reason why I say this is interesting is because on the face of it, while revenue numbers have been met on other line items, uh, even though my EBITDA it's a good performance, it's lower than estimated. The net profit is a weak performance and lower than estimated, but brokerages are constructive on Godrej Consumer. So look this up. For example, I saw a Nomura note wherein they are saying that they have upped the target price, by the way. The target price increased from 1150 to 1225, which is an 18% upside. They say the investments and initiatives are yielding results, and the first quarter strong showings will continue. So they're obviously looking at the revenue front and saying that this is strong showing and may continue. Even Jeffries says that the numbers looked okay. The price target, this upside is about 18%. They say it's a better underlying growth, a very strong India growth, and some of the other things like Raymond acquisition, etc. might all help. So, well, let's wait and watch if GCPL actually reacts positively, despite the fact that while the revenues are okay, the other line items are below Bloomberg estimates. Torrent Pharma, revenues up 10% at 2591 versus 2648. On that base, I would say it almost meets estimates, to be very honest. EBITDA up 11% at 791, estimate 798, in line with estimates. Margins 30.5 30.1. Net profit up 7% at 378 versus 359 crores. On the bottom line front, marginally ahead of estimates, if you will, just about ahead of estimates. More than five, I usually keep a benchmark of 5% relative to estimates. Therefore, I think the bottom line slightly above estimates. But you would say a decent quarter in line with estimates. Torrent Pharma, more importantly, saying that they are witnessing price stability in the US generics in the DF side. They saw 7% price increase and 3% volume decline. They expect a favorable response from the US FDA for the H and expect the reinspection at no, we're sticking with Torrent Pharma and expect the reinspection at Indrad facility. They'll repay the net debt of about 0.6 billion in FY24. So the commentary is not that bad. The number is not that bad. Watch out for Torrent Pharma. Gland Pharma, better than estimated. Revenue is up 41% at 1209 versus 1198. In line, you would argue, and I agree. But EBITDA 294 versus estimated 254. Margins 24.3 versus 21.2 estimated, that is. No, we've not mentioned, unfortunately, we've not mentioned the estimates out here, so excuse us for that. But the estimated numbers were this. Okay, revenues were up 41% at 1209. The estimates was 1198. EBITDA was at 294 crores. The estimates were 254 crores. Margins have come in at 24.3. The estimates were 21.2%. Net profit was down 15% at 194 crores, but the estimates were 170 crores. So on all counts, Gland Pharma was actually better than estimated. And that's why the stock may have a positive reaction. So be mindful of that. Then some strong numbers. I was telling you about food companies doing well. Foods and Inns, Q1 24, revenue up 31%, EBITDA up 83%, EBITDA margins at 11% versus 8%, nearly 8%, and net profit up 104% at 14 crores versus 7 crores. Very strong performance. Low base, but strong performance. Maybe an illiquid stock, so please be mindful of that. But the performance seems strong. ADF Foods, the performance seems okay. Revenue up 15%, EBITDA up 141%, EBITDA margins at 19.5 versus 9%. Net profit 92% higher at 14 crores versus 7 crores again. So good going there. Watch out for this one as well. Jupiter Wagons, revenues up 155% at 753 crores. EBITDA up 222% at 96 crores. EBITDA margins at 12.85 versus 10.17. Net profit up 390% at 62.85 versus 12.81. So strong showing by Jupiter Wagons. It's not a cheap stock. It's run up quite a bit, but the numbers look rock solid, as is the case with most of these wagon manufacturers. We know Titagarh Rail Systems wagon has done really well. Texmaco too, I thought did okay, if I'm not wrong, the results came out. Jupiter Wagons certainly has done well. Then Sadhana Nitro Chem, the numbers seem good. The revenue is up 43%, EBITDA up 205%, margins expand quite meaningfully as well. The net profit is flattish because of increase in depreciation and finance costs, but the above the EBITDA line, everything seems okay. So maybe Sadhana Nitro Chem reacts positively. Rainbow Children's Medicare, revenues up 21% at 287 crores. The Bloomberg estimates were 272 crores. Margins at 30.54 versus estimated 32.64. So there's a bit of an issue. But the net profit, 40 crores versus estimated 38 crores. I think they did okay on itself. Med Plus, revenues up 29% at 1284. The estimates were 1326. EBITDA 35.5% uptake at 71 crores. The estimates were 52 crores. EBITDA margins at 5.56. The estimates were 3.98%. So Med Plus, very strong quarter relative to estimates. This is what they've done relative to what they did in the corresponding quarter last year, but relative to estimates, they've done really well, so may react positively. Mangalore Chemicals, revenues were okay, but the EBITDA performance, EBITDA margin performance, and therefore the bottom line performance was very strong, may react positively. Indigo Paints, again, relative to estimates, very strong performance, 58% uptick in PAT at 31 crores, the estimates were 29 crores, and even the margins at 17% are in line with estimates, so may react positively. Let's see. Bayer Cropscience, mixed numbers, if you will. Net profit up 8.5%, but EBITDA at 424 versus estimated 401 crores. So that's what did well. Watch out for that one. Mixed quarter for Soba, Tata Chemicals, as well as Max Healthcare. So difficult to say how the reactions will be, and hence I'm not enumerating them too much, to be very honest. Weak numbers for HLE Glasscoat as well as Gokaldas Exports. HLE Glasscoat, well, margins came off, net profit down 40%. Gokaldas, again, margins flattish, net profit down 17%, revenue down 15%. So not necessarily the best. Am I missing something? Very quickly, just before we wrap up, I'd just like to bring up some numbers in case I have missed them in today's session. Well, we mentioned Bayer and Gland and Jupiter. So all of that is sorted. ITT Cementation had a good quarter, so that's to be kept watch out for. Sangvi Movers was very strong performance. EBITDA was up 88 crores versus 48 crores, 84% growth in EBITDA. PAT at 42 crores versus 14 crores, so strong. India Glycols had a very strong EBITDA performance, so that's to be watched out for as well. SH Kelkar thought was okay. I mean, gross profit margin was okay. EBITDA was up about 28% for a chemical company to do that. I thought was very good. So watch out for those names. And in terms of weak quarters, Electra Green Tech, horrible numbers. GNFC, very weak numbers. EBITDA was down 86%. Faircam was again a weak quarter wherein EBITDA was down 71% YOY. Paras Defense came out during market hours, but the numbers were wobbly and the stock duly reacted. I already spoke about HLE Glasscoat, so that one could have a weak quarter as well, a weak performance as well. So that's the sum and substance of the numbers. A clutch of very important conversations lined up today on BQ Prime. So you'll hear, well, talking point with Anshul Sehgal, CIO, EVP, and head of Kotak PMS. So that's a conversation I'm watching out for. But a clutch of other result conversations to be watched out for. There is Godrej Consumer Products, which we'll be talking to. There is Paras Defense, amongst others, and a clutch of other interviews. So watch out for all of those. Thanks so much for tuning into the Trade Setup today.